Thank you so much, Abigail. I think this is the perfect example of Department of Home Affairs showing this is the step towards the right direction. And to just let our public know that Marabastad Home Affairs is no longer called the Marabastad Home Affairs Refugee Reception Center. It's Desmond Tutu Refugee Reception Center now. And to go directly to the minister here, a very happy and a very proud man today. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Minister. Can you just talk about some of the things that have been revamped at particularly Desmond Tutu Reception Center?
I think that's the first thing, the renaming of the former Marabastad Refugee Reception Center after a human rights icon, an icon for freedom, for human solidarity, Archbishop Emeritus Desmond Tutu. We thank his family and the Desmond Tutu and Leah Tutu Foundation for allowing us to use his name, because the use of his name challenges us to strive for excellence, to strive for more in terms of pursuing human rights and treating asylum seekers and refugees according to the human rights ethos. But we've automated the Refugee Reception Center. It is no longer, we no longer use any form of paper. We've revamped virtually the entire operations so that the people who come to the center now no longer have to carry any paper. There will be no corruption in the future. All of these criminal syndicates that used to hang around and the public servants that used to seek corruption from asylum seekers will no longer have that opportunity, because an applicant now comes and submits their application. They start it online. The extension of the asylum permits happens online. The person who has an asylum permit to move right from the refugee reception officer to the refugee status determination officer, the process is automated. There is high security inside the area. We have got monitors at each service counter, and therefore there is no official that can seek corruption. The translators are no longer based physically at the center. They are now based at our head office. The communication with the interpreters is telephonic, which means that there is no physical contact between the translator, the applicant, and the official of the department, which makes the process all the much more corruption-free.
And Minister, can you just briefly give us an update on what's happening with the white paper?
The white paper, the draft white paper on international migration is now close to finalization. As the President outlined, it announces some bold measures to deal with economic migration, which is most prevalent in South Africa, because most of the asylum seekers who come to South Africa are not genuine asylum seekers. They are in actual fact economic migrants seeking to use the avenue of asylum in order to regularize their stay in the country. It also seeks to deal with, to improve our management of asylum seeker processes by proposing that we move our refugee reception centers from the inland towards the border areas, so that by the time a refugee comes inland, their status is already determined. As the President announced, we don't seek encampment. The policy of non-encampment in South Africa will continue. Refugees who have been granted asylum will be allowed to integrate freely in the country. So by end of March, we should go back to Cabinet and get endorsement for a final draft, a final white paper on international migration.
Thank you so much, Minister. Abigail, that was the Minister of Home Affairs, Malusi Gigaba, just giving us a brief on what has actually been revamped in the Department of Home Affairs. We also had earlier President of the country, Jacob Zuma, giving the keynote address, asking the South Africans that you embrace some of the foreign nationals, because they are not, just everyone, 100% of them are not asylum seekers, but what they do in this country will add to the economy, because they come here with huge skills. Back to you, Abigail.
Keldon, we do know, just before I let you go, that the Marabastad Center was allegedly marred by corruption and criminal activities. When speaking to the foreigners there who are actually going to be using these facilities, what have they said about this new facility that's been redesigned and refurbished?
Definitely, Abigail. This morning when we did go to Desmond Tutu Reception Center, there were quite a lot of foreigners there waiting to file their papers or documents in the new machine where they can actually get a date. And remember previously, Abigail, the foreigners from Western Africa, East Africa had different days of going to the Desmond Tutu Reception Center, but now any of them can walk from any parts of these eastern, west or south, they can walk in to Desmond Tutu Reception Center and get the dates online in the machine that has been stored there. We got to speak to many of them who was very positive. In fact, they did touch on the subject of corruption. They did say there was a lot of corruption now, and today they are hopeful. Most of them are very happy with the Department of Home Affairs, also thanking the South African government, saying now their life is going to be much better. And mostly they spoke about the time consumption, the Department of Home Affairs in Desmond Tutu Reception Center. They used to take long hours to just formalize their paper or give them the date to come, register. But now that they have machine, it's going to be much easier for them and less time consuming.
Well, Kelton, let's leave it there for now. NNSM reporter Kelton Ongmo just chatting to the Minister of Home Affairs, Malusi Gigaba, about the revamped Desmond Tutu Refugee Reception Office. It was before known as the Marabastad Center. There was allegations of criminal activity and corruption. It has now been revamped, and President Jacob Zuma launched that center a short while ago. Stay tuned to NN7 for details and developments.